In the last 2 weeks, the frontline battles have been raging in multiple sections. In particular, Russians have been actively trying to progress further from Avdiivka and eventually reach Pokrovsk. To that end, Russian units located around Berdychi have been attacking Ukrainian positions, trying to move towards Novopokrovsk village. They have had marginal success in reaching the outskirts of Ocheretine, but the overall attacking potential of Russian grouping seems to be decreasing in that area. Ukrainians are effectively stopping the horde, preventing them from occupying more sovereign Ukrainian land. Given the circumstances, the future choices of Russian command is either to continue growing the assault force in the area while continuously engaging in offensive operations, or to hold the advance and make a defensive regrouping. So far, they are going for the first option, but Ukrainian soldiers continue to end their hopes. Amongst other sections not far from Avdiivka, Chasiv Yar became the center of Russian attention, with a deadline to take the city by the time of Russian celebration on the 9th of May. A city that is currently a Ukrainian stronghold for the past 2 weeks has been suffering from continuous Russian assault attempts. Sadly, they have had progress moving into Bogdanivka and Ivanivske, with severe battles currently ongoing for the fate of these 2 villages. However, even if Russians capture Bogdanivka and Ivanivske, they will have an almost impossible task of moving into Chasiv Yar in such a short amount of time. The city is located on the uphill, giving Ukrainians significant strategic advantage for a positional defense. While Chasiv Yar is smaller than Bakhmut, it does have a chance of holding off the enemy for quite a while. A considerable force is also centered near Klishivka, however so far has not been as active. Anyway, the overall Russian attacking force in the Bakhmut direction has not seriously increased in the past month. That is why there are serious doubts about the Russian ability to suddenly capture Chasiv Yar before their 9th of May deadline. When it comes to other sections, Russians have been actively engaged in the Liman and Kupiansk directions, but thankfully Ukrainian soldiers were able to destroy all of the advancing enemies and did not allow Russian command to have an inch of progress. Moving towards more frontline-related news, Ukraine has conducted a series of missile and drone strikes at key Russian military infrastructure. On the 8th of April, a Ukrainian drone landed at the Borisogledsk airbase for the training of flight personnel. The airbase mainly focuses on training Russian frontline bombers and attack aviation flight crews, and the strike reportedly damaged some of the production facilities. Going further, Ukraine successfully attacked another airbase in Jankoy, which is home to the Russian 27th Aerial Division. As a result, 4 S-400 launchers, 3 radars, and a control point for air defense were destroyed. An incredible result and a truly powerful operation conducted by Ukrainian special forces using the limited resources available. Another positive news from the past 2 weeks is the downing of the Russian bomber Tu-22M3 on the 19th of April. It was shot down approximately 300 kilometers away from the Ukrainian territory with the help of the same weapon used to eliminate 2 A-50 radiolocation planes. The weapon in question remains unspecified. What is notable here is that it is the first time that Ukrainian forces managed to shoot down a Russian strategic bomber plane in the air since the beginning of the full-scale Russian invasion. Ukrainians continue to successfully utilize the available drones and missiles, coming up with creative ways to cripple the Russian military machine with very limited resources. If only the Western partners were not drowning in their own bureaucracy and provided Ukraine with the necessary resources, this war may have already been way closer to the Ukrainian victory. On the other side, the country of terrorists and slaves continues conducting a series of strikes aiming at destroying Ukrainian energy infrastructure and imposing fear on the population. Sadly, the Tripilsk thermal power plant in Kiev region was entirely destroyed by a night strike by the Russian Federation on 11th of April. As a result of the hit, a massive fire broke out and the entire facility was soon absorbed by the flames. In the previous months, Russians have already destroyed another Ukrainian thermal power plant in Kharkiv region. The attacks have led to a major Ukrainian electric production company, Centerenergo, losing 100% of its electricity generation. Thankfully, the cold season is already over, but Ukraine will have to do a massive reconstruction project ahead of the next winter months. Other strikes targeting civilian infrastructure were conducted by Russians aiming at Dnipro and Chernihiv. As a result, a residential building was hit in Dnipro, leading to multiple civilian casualties, including an 8-month-old baby. Reportedly, 7 people were killed, and 34 received injuries of various degrees. Similarly, in Chernihiv, 10 Ukrainian civilians were murdered after a strike at the residential area, lives that could have been saved if the United States and Europe provided Ukraine with enough aerial defense systems. On a political front, High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Joseph Borrell, has called on European Union to deliver the 7 Patriot systems that Ukraine has asked for. Borrell stated that the EU currently has 100 of these systems and that there is no real cost for sending them over to Ukraine. On top of that, member of the European Parliament and former Prime Minister of Belgium, Guy Verhofstadt, openly called for the removal of the budget approval of the European Council from the agenda and to replace it with the delivery of necessary Patriot systems to Ukraine.
I have in fact a point of order to ask you to change the agenda of today, because today I have to tell you I'm that sick of what is happening in Ukraine. That sick, why? Because as you have all seen the last 20 days, there are these numerous attacks by the Russians on the ordinary cities of Ukraine, hospitals, power installations, apartment blocks. And what I find scandal is that Europe, who is opening the door for Ukraine, and the European Council is not even capable in such an urgency to decide to send a number of anti-missile systems to Ukraine. There are in total, Mr. President, Mr. Borrell told us that, 100 of these Patriot systems in Europe. And they ask 7 to protect their cities.
A good news came on 11th of April, with Latvia and Ukraine signing a long-term defense agreement. According to the document, Latvia will provide military aid to Ukraine in the amount of 0.25% of GDP every year. In addition, Latvia undertakes a 10-year commitment to support Ukraine in cyber defense, demining, AI technologies, and promotes Ukrainian acceptance to the European Union and NATO. Furthermore, on 17th of April, Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe made an important resolution. The Assembly urged to officially recognize the illegitimacy of Putin as the President of Russian Federation and to recognize the Russian Orthodox Church as an instrument of Russian influence and propaganda that has nothing to do with freedom of religion and expression. Indeed, Russian Orthodox Church is nothing more than an instrument in the hands of Putin, and the official recognition of it by the Parliamentary Assembly is an important step forward. In the end, probably one of the most important political events happened, with US Congress finally coming to its senses and passing the severely delayed Ukrainian aid bill worth $60 billion. On April 20th, Congress voted in favor of the bill. All Democrats said yes, and 112 Republicans said no to fighting the oppression and terror that poses a direct threat to American interests. The bill allocates $50 billion towards the defense sector of Ukraine and another $10 billion towards economic development. This aid bill is the history in the making, and a critical point which will drastically increase Ukraine's capabilities on the front line. However, it is important to understand that this is not the end, and it is no time to get complacent. Ukraine will need a whole lot more funding and weapons if we are to defeat the largest threat to the democratic world.